What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to be doing a Fallout 76 guide. Today we're going to be focusing on a shotgun-based class that's heavily explosive and a pretty fun playstyle. So, without further ado, let's jump in and see what this build has to offer. So, jumping into this build, the main focus is obviously shotguns, explosions, craziness, fun. And I try to make it into a balanced sort of playstyle so that they can fit every single thing that you do in the game and make it to where it's really not annoying to where you're kind of weak in some regards. So jumping in, obviously one of the things we did is we chose all of the shotgun perks, basically increasing our shotguns by 60%, making them do some massive damage. Now, on top of that, we chose Pack Rat, which basically allows us to also reduce the amount of how much our junk items weigh, which is awesome because basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to really get into your scavenging, looking at different things, taking apart different things, and getting all of the materials and stuff that you really, really need. So, that's really helpful. Next is Scatter Shot, which basically makes it to where shotguns weigh way less. Which is awesome because what you can do is you can pick up more shotguns, take them apart, carry around all that junk because of your reduced junk, and then you're able to really start building better and better shotguns because later on, obviously, we're going to be getting Gunsmith. So that's something really good. And on top of it, it makes it to where you reload them 30% faster, which is one of the biggest flaws of shotguns, but by doing that, we fix the problem of shotguns. Next, we get into the perception tree, which basically we have right here, fire in the hole. Basically, the way that this, the perception tree is going is it's really a focus on grenades, as that is one of your few different things, because with shotguns, most of the time you need to be up in the front, but with grenades, it's a nice way of getting a nice AoE damage where you hit multiple different targets, so having all that area effect damage is very helpful. So, by doing this, it allows us to do our throwing arc and make them a little bit farther. So, getting kind of that sneak attack on them. And then, in addition to that, we also have Grenadier, which basically makes it to where they detonate twice the radius. So, twice the amount of area, meaning more enemies exploding on you. Now, in addition to that, we also have Skeet Shooter, which basically allows us excellent accuracy and spread. Very helpful for a shotgun because that's one of the biggest issues that they have. Next is some fun and quality of life abilities in the endurance tree. We have the good old cannibal, which basically anytime we kill something, we're able to eat it. Of course with those certain things, but most of the time you're either killing a human, a ghoul, super mutant, scorch, or mole, miner. I mean, that's usually the main enemy types out in the game. So that's the main thing there. And then Lead Belly is a really helpful ability, which basically allows it from drinking and eating to take no radiation whatsoever, which is so helpful. I don't think you guys realize how many radaways you guys use when you're eating your food. It's a consistent problem, especially with the game. And I think that highly recommend that you really take this perk early. Next, we get into Charisma, which Charisma is a really important one to choose because for every 1 point of share card, it requires 2 charisma. So basically, by having a total of 7, we're able to really share any of the cards that have 3 and below. So the ones that I would suggest sharing is Pack Rat, as that will really help out with your scavenging. And then in addition to that, you can also help out with Enforcer or things like Suppressor. So a lot of different things to do to really help out with your team. So having a nice 7 points into it is very helpful. And the stuff I chose was Bodyguards, as it allows you a way of getting some damage and energy resistance. And in addition to that, one of the things that's really awesome with this one compared to other ones that buff up your damage and energy resistance, you can actually use this while in power armor. So a lot of people don't use power armor all the time, but this is like an alternative way of doing that. Next is obviously Suppressor, which basically reduces the target's damage output by 30% for the next 2 seconds, which is very helpful, especially because you are a shotgunner. Most of the time you're jumping right into the fray, you're right up in their face, so you really want to make sure that you have all the damage reduction out there, especially going forward. Now next we're getting into Intelligence, which basically makes it to where our explosives deal double the amount of damage. Explosives are already powerful as it is, but doubling the damage and doubling the radius just makes them to a ludicrous, insane level. So highly recommend picking that one up. And then of course we got Gunsmith, which allows our guns to break down slower, which is so annoying when they break. So having Gunsmith is very helpful because it allows it to where they don't break as fast, and you won't have to really worry about your shotguns breaking that much. In addition to that, we're able to make tier 5 guns, allowing us to make that awesome combat shotgun and max it up to its full potential with all the mods and things we need on it. Now in addition to that, we also have our agility perks here, which I chose Ammo Smith, which basically allows us to make more rounds of ammo. So with the shotgun, sometimes usually you find a lot of shells out in the world, but there does come to a point where sometimes you do struggle to have some certain ammo. So it's very helpful for you and your team to have this perk because it allows you to really diversify and help out your team where they need certain things out there. So I highly recommend picking out this perk as it's very helpful for that. Next, obviously, we have Enforcer, which basically makes it to where it has an increased amount of stagger and a chance of crippling a limb, basically doing more damage or manipulating a target to where they're slower or they're missing a limb. So that's very helpful, especially going forward. And then the last perk is obviously Bloody Mess, meaning more damage, and Explosions, which just fits it so well. So let's actually look at the leveling curve here and how exactly you're going to be going about in the game leveling up. So in the beginning, you're just going to be choosing Lead Belly just because that's really the only perk you can pick that's kind of worthwhile. Lead Belly, it seems like a kind of a weak choice, and I know it doesn't give you much combat advantage, but it gives you such a big quality of life change when playing the game. I just gotta recommend it to you guys. It's just so good. And we're not really wasting any points with it. There is other things out there that probably could do some more damage, like concentrated fire and whatnot, but Lead Belly just helps out so much with your quality of life, gameplay wise, and it makes it's really comforting playing the game and not having to worry about radiation when it comes to food and everything. Also, when it partnered up with Cannibal, you get no radiation, which is pretty awesome. Now I chose Bodyguards right at level 5 and beyond because basically most of the time when I'm playing Fallout 76, it's Fallout multiplayer, so I mean, I'm most of the time playing with people. I really don't play Fallout 76 by myself, otherwise I'd just go play Fallout 4. So when I jump into the game, I usually choose Bodyguards right at the beginning. You can choose this later on, and you can try to choose some other things along the way, but I just felt like I just needed to pick it, get it all out of the way, get that huge bonus, and then while I'm playing with my friends, at least I won't be completely useless. So say like they're higher level, that way I can still be kind of caught up with them. Now next is Pack Rat, just a nice little point to put in early in the game, so that way you can scavenge up a little bit more, you know, allowing yourself to do stuff, especially with us getting Gunsmith later on at level 13, 14. And then, of course, obviously, you're going to choose your shotgun, max that out. Just max that out, because you'll start to have a lot of Scorch. That'll start to actually drop some different things out there. Next, obviously, pick Cannibal after your Gunsmith. So you choose 3 ranks because you really don't need the 4th and 5th rank yet. You're going to need that a little bit later on. I chose 2 things of Cannibal. So at this rate, we're getting some really awesome big heals from Lead Belly and the Cannibal sort of stuff going on here. We're able to carry a lot of junk, and on top of that, we have our guns that we're starting to make. So at this point, you're doing some pretty good stuff. You're doing really well. Now you need to really focus on getting a little bit more damage and stuff out there. So having the skeet shooter is awesome because obviously we need that skeet shooter to be able to do some more damage and add a little bit more stagger. So as you can see here, if I could find it, there we go. So adding a little bit more damage and increasing the spread and accuracy, so that way we can shoot some of the limbs that we really want down. And at this point, around 2022 is when you really kind of want to get these last 2 perks. So that's when I got them. And then on top of that, you're going to be getting Expert Shotgunner because, you know, more damage makes sense. In addition to that, you're going to be getting Scatter Shot, so just max that out completely. Now, this is when you start to get into the stuff for the grenades. I find grenades are pretty fine in the early levels, but around this period is where grenades start to kind of seem like they're less useful. So this is a point where I started to put some points into, you know, demolition and all that. But I knew that the focus of this build was really going to be on the shotguns, and that all that other stuff is going to be really useful later on when we're trying to get nuke codes. So I only put 1 point into demolition expert right at level 29. And then I wanted to focus on enforcer, basically to give ourselves a little bit more of ways of really taking out those limbs. So we have the improved accuracy, which is nice, but having it to where we could really get rid of, sort of the limbs and stuff, that's very helpful, especially at level 30, where you start to get into a little bit of the tougher enemy types. Now, after that, I chose Demolition Expert 2, just to give ourselves a little bit more of a boost, because around this level is where you start to get into the grind. You start to have to deal with multiple different enemy types, large groups, that sort of thing. Now, this is when you pick Ammosmith. I wish that they had Ammosmith earlier in the game, but however, it doesn't really pop up till way later. So around 34 is when you pick Ammosmith. And this is when you start to do your giant, leveling. You start going after bigger creatures. And this is when you obviously want to pick Grenadier, because you want to stay away from the bigger enemies until they get into your face, and then you shoot your shotgun at them. So it gives you a nice little variety of different things here. So you can weaken them, and then by the time they come up to you, you shoot them with your shotgun, and they should be close to dead. So from there, we chose Suppressor. Then we choose Bloody Mess, because we want it to be, massive, damage. And then again, you focus more on your damage. So around 47, you're doing some crazy awesome damage. You got Suppressor again. And then after that, you're focusing on your little stuff that you needed to get along the way. So at this point, I focused on maxing out our demolition. I focused on getting our fire in the hole done. I focused on cannibal. And then after that, I put my last 2 points into Pack Rat at the very end. Now, you might be saying, why did you put Pack Rat at the very end? Well, there's way more useful things at the time that I really wanted to focus on and try to level those out. And at the end of the game, you're really focusing on getting more junk and trying to build better guns and better equipment for the vaults that are going to be opening up shortly in the next coming patches. So I found that, honestly, from a gameplay perspective, that it's honestly better to focus on Pack Rat at the very end, as it's very helpful, especially going forward, and it just gives you some sort of incentive to go and collect more junk and focus on that as sort of your main goal. So kind of gives you a nice little mini game at the very end to do when you've pretty much beaten most of the stuff out there in Scorch Beast. Alright, so let's just give kind of a conclusion of what the build has to offer. So basically, you're obviously a high strength character, so you're going to be able to carry a lot of weight compared to the other classes where it's kind of annoying to carry a lot of the weight. In addition to that, you also don't have to worry about junk, and which allows you to really focus on going out there into the world and really picking up a lot of that junk to help make your better guns. Obviously, we have a good amount of shotguns, so shotguns are one of our main things. However, we also have a little bit of diversity with focusing on grenades, which can deal some massive damage, especially when going in to get nuke codes. You can throw this at the turret and not have to worry about it being missed. Having that excellent sort of increase in giant sort of radius is awesome, and it can hit multiple different targets. Now, in addition to that, our shotguns are really good at, focusing on its accuracy, and on top of that, its spread and focusing on limbs. So that's going to be really awesome. On top of that, we have a quality of life of Lead Belly and Cannibal, so allowing us, whenever we kill a target, to get a quick heal from it. And in addition to that, we're not really having to worry about raid-aways as much. We can use them only when, Scorches are attacking us. So that's going to be really helpful later on. We have Bodyguards, which allows us a nice incentive while we're playing our game. And in addition to that, it can be used in power armor. Also, on top of that, whenever we attack something, they actually hit us for 30% less damage. So even while we're up in the fray with our shotguns, we really don't have to worry about taking too much damage. Now, on top of that, we also are very helpful for our party and for ourselves, as we can make our shotguns at their full potential and with their highest range and highest amount of damage. So with all the mods and things that we find along the way, we can add that on top of our guns and make them do some massive damage. So this is going to be really helpful because it allows you also to get the different receivers and different sort of mods out there to make it to where you can really highlight what things you like with the shotgun. So you can even add it to where shotguns have range, which is weird to think about. In addition to that, that is also helpful for our team. We're allowed to be able to make 80% more ammunition. So this is very helpful, especially for your party, allowing yourself another incentive for them to party up with you. In addition to that, we also have Bloody Mess and a few of our other damage perks to deal some massive damage with our shotguns. Anyways, guys, that is my Fallout shoddy build. It's awesome, it's crazy, it's got explosions, it's got shotguns, it's got quality of life, it's got crafting. It's got all the things in the game to make it to where you're a well-diverse character, to where you can really have fun with this overall build. I hope you do enjoy. Fallout 76 has some big patches coming up along the way. I know it's been kind of a disappointment for most people, but I really hope that this game does come back, as I'm one of the biggest Fallout fans out there. So hopefully it will get itself together for 2019. But if you guys love gaming, I have plenty of other things also on the channel as well. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.